The Great Hall of the Galactic Concord was the most beautiful place in the known galaxy. It floated in the dark space between three stars, held in place by ancient machines that no one alive remembered how to build. Its walls were made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. The floor was a single piece of polished black stone, smooth as still water. The ceiling rose so high that small clouds sometimes formed inside it. Admiral Sarah Chen stood alone in the center of this hall. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired brown eyes. Her uniform was simple gray, with a single silver star on each shoulder. She did not look like much. That was the point. Around her, 12 giant faces looked down from the walls. They were holograms, three-dimensional pictures of the leaders of the 12 oldest species in the galaxy. Each one was bigger than a house. Each one was looking at Sarah Chen with the same expression. It was the look a person gives a bug they are about to step on. High Counselor Vex Than spoke first. He was a Terrellian, a tall being made of living crystal. His body was clear like glass but full of moving lights. When he spoke, his voice rang out like a bell. "Human," he said, "you have wasted our time long enough. Look outside this station. Tell us what you see." Sarah Chen did not turn around. She did not need to. She knew what was out there. Through the great glass windows of the hall, anyone could see the truth. The Concord fleet hung in the black space like a wall of metal. Thousands of ships. Some were as big as small moons. Their guns could burn whole planets. Their shields could stop suns from harming them. And next to that great fleet, alone, sat the human ships. 7 of them. Just 7. They looked small and weak. The biggest was Sarah's ship, the Times Prometheus. The others were even smaller. The Concord ships made the human ships look like toys. "I see 7 ships," Sarah said. Her voice was calm and quiet. The hall filled with laughter. The Krellan ambassador, a being with 6 arms and a face like a melted candle, slapped his many hands together. 7 ships, he said. "She admits it. 7 ships against the will of the galaxy." Another council member, a thin being with skin like wet paper, spoke up. "Earth has had 70 years since we first sent our signals to your little blue world. 70 years to prepare. And this is what you bring? This is your great fleet?" More laughter rolled through the hall. Somewhere, Sarah knew, the meeting was being shown to billions of viewers all across the galaxy. Aliens of every shape and size were watching her, laughing at her, laughing at all humans. Vex Than raised one crystal hand. The laughter stopped at once. "Enough fun," he said. "We are here for business. Humanity will sign the agreement. You will become a protected species under Terrellian rule. Your planet will give us workers. Your seas will give us food. Your skies will give us metals. In return, we will let you live." "That is not protection," Sarah said quietly. "That is slavery." "Words," Vex Than said. "Just words. The truth is simple. You cannot fight us. You are weak. You are small. You are young. We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We will rule it for 10,000 more. The only question is whether you will be useful or whether you will be in the way." Sarah said nothing. She let the silence grow. The council members shifted in their seats. They were not used to silence. They were used to fear. The Krellan ambassador broke first. "Perhaps the humans would make adequate manual laborers," he said. "Their hands are clever, I have heard. Not very strong, but clever." "Their backs are soft," said another. "But they breed quickly. We could use that." "Their world is rich in water," said a third. "We can make use of that too." They were talking about Earth as if it were already theirs, as if Sarah Chen were not standing right there, as if humans were animals, and the meeting was about how to divide up the herd. Sarah waited. She had been told to wait. She had been told to listen. The orders from Earth had been very clear. Let them mock. Let them laugh. Let them think we are nothing. Then, when the time is right, show them. A young Concord officer, no older than a human teenager, stepped forward with a small device. He was streaming the meeting to the whole galaxy. He pointed his device at Sarah and made a face. The face said, "Look at this little human, all alone, with her 7 toy ships." Sarah could almost hear the alien viewers laughing through their screens. Hours passed. The council talked and talked. They drew up papers. They made plans. They spoke of Earth's resources, Earth's people, Earth's future. They did not ask Sarah a single question. They did not seem to care what she thought. At last, Vexthan turned back to her. "Sign the papers. Human," he said. "Sign them now, and your kind may yet live to see another century. Refuse, and we will burn your world to glass before you can return home." Sarah looked up at the giant crystal face. She did not move. She did not blink. When she spoke, her voice was still calm. "Before I sign anything," she said, "I want to ask for one thing. Just one small thing." Vexthan tilted his great head. "And what is that?" "A test," Sarah said. "Let my fleet show you what we can do. One demonstration. After that, we can talk about papers." The hall went very quiet. Then, slowly, Vexthan began to laugh. It was not a kind sound. The other council members joined in. Soon, the whole hall was filled with cruel alien laughter again. "A test," Vexthan said. "The little human wants to show us her power. Yes, yes, by all means. Let us see what your tiny fleet can do. We even have a target ready. We use it for our own weapons tests. Morgral, 7, a small moon, only a few thousand kilometers across. It would take 10 of our dreadnoughts working together to break it. Let us see how your 7 toy ships do." He laughed again. Sarah did not laugh. She bowed her head once, just once, in a small gesture of thanks. "That will do," she said. The council members were already placing bets among themselves. How long before the human ship breaks down? How long before it gives up? Will the humans even reach the target? Will they fire and miss? Vexthan waved a crystal hand. "Go then, human. Go and play with your moon. We will watch. And when you are finished embarrassing yourself, you will come back here and sign these papers." Sarah Chen turned and walked from the hall. Her boots made soft sounds on the black stone floor. Behind her, the laughter followed her out the door. She did not look back. She did not need to. In her ear, a small voice spoke. It was Marcus Webb, her chief engineer, calling from the Times. "Prometheus." "Admiral," he said. "Did you get permission?" "I did," Sarah said. "We have one shot. One demonstration." There was a pause on the other end. Then Marcus said, "Are we really going to do this, ma'am?" Sarah stepped into the small ship that would take her back to her fleet. Through the window, she could see the Times, Prometheus Times, waiting in the dark. So small, so weak, so harmless looking. "Yes, Marcus," she said. "We are going to do this. They want a show. We are going to give them one." As the small shuttle pulled away from the great Concord station, Sarah looked out at the cold stars. Somewhere far away, on a small blue planet, her people were watching too. They had waited a long time for this moment. They had worked for it in secret. They had sacrificed for it. Many had died for it. Now the time had come. Now the galaxy would learn what humans could do when their backs were against the wall. The Concord thought they had cornered a weak animal. They did not know they had cornered something else. Something much more dangerous. Something that had spent 70 years preparing for this exact moment. Sarah closed her eyes for a brief second. Then she opened them again, ready for what came next. The shuttle bay of the Times, Prometheus Times, opened to let Sarah Chen's small ship come home. The doors were thick, made of a dark metal that looked plain on the outside. Few aliens knew that the metal was not really metal at all. It was something else, something humans had built in secret labs deep under the oceans of Earth. Sarah stepped out of the shuttle and onto the deck of her ship. The air was cool and clean. The lights were soft. Around her, human crew members moved quickly to their stations. They did not speak much. They did not need to. They all knew what was coming. Marcus Webb was waiting for her at the door. He was a tall man, with gray hair and a long white beard. His hands were rough from years of working with machines. He was the chief engineer, and he was the man who had built the weapon that was about to change the galaxy. "Admiral," he said, walking beside her. "The council really gave us permission?" "They did," Sarah said. They think it is a joke. They are betting on how badly we will fail. Marcus shook his head slowly. Good. Let them think that. Let them keep thinking that until the very last second. They walked together down a long hallway. The walls were lined with screens showing different parts of the ship. Sarah saw young officers checking their stations. She saw the great engines deep in the heart of the ship, glowing with soft blue light. She saw the dark space outside, full of stars and full of waiting alien eyes. As they walked, Sarah thought about how they had gotten here. It had started 70 years ago, when humans first picked up alien signals from deep space. The world had been so excited. People thought it would be the beginning of a great new age of friendship and learning between stars. But the smart ones, the careful ones, had been worried. They had listened to the signals more closely. They had found things in them that the public never knew about. Threats. Warnings. The Concorde was not friendly. The Concorde did not want friends. The Concorde wanted servants. So humans had done two things. In public, they had built normal ships. Big ones. Slow ones. Ships that looked impressive but were not really strong. These were the ships that aliens saw when they came to study Earth. These were the ships that made the Concorde laugh. And in secret, deep under the oceans and inside hollow mountains, humans had built something else. Something the aliens had never imagined. Something that broke all the rules the Concorde thought it knew about space and time and matter. Marcus stopped at a large door. He looked at Sarah. Do you want to see it again? He asked. Before we use it? Yes, Sarah said. He opened the door. Inside was a huge room, the biggest single room on the Times Prometheus. In the middle, taking up most of the space, was a great machine. It was shaped like a long tube, pointing toward the front of the ship. It was wrapped in many layers of pipes and wires and strange glowing crystals. At its base, lights blinked in patterns no human eye could fully follow. This was the graviton lance, the weapon that was about to fire for the first time in front of the whole galaxy. She's ready, Marcus said. He sounded proud and sad and a little afraid, all at once. Dr. Tanaka would have been so proud. Sarah nodded. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had been the brain behind the weapon. She had spent her whole life on it. She had died 10 years ago, before she could see it work. She had never married. She had never had children. The weapon was her child. The weapon was her gift to humanity. Tell me again how it works, Sarah said. I want to hear it one more time. Marcus smiled. He had told her 1,000 times, but he always loved to tell her again. It does not fire like other weapons, he said. Other weapons throw something at the target. A bullet, a laser, a bomb. But the graviton lance does not throw anything. It just reaches out. It bends space itself. For a tiny moment, just one tiny moment, it pulls all the small parts of the target into the wrong shape. The parts cannot stay together when they are in the wrong shape. They fall apart. The target unmakes itself from the inside out. And the aliens cannot stop it? Sarah asked. They cannot even see it coming, Marcus said. Their shields stop bullets and lasers and bombs. Their shields do not stop space itself from bending. To them, it will look like the target just falls apart, for no reason. How long until we are ready to fire? Sarah asked. 2 hours, Marcus said. We need to charge the lance fully. It uses 90% of the ship's power. After we fire, we will be almost helpless for many hours. That is the cost. 1 shot, Sarah said softly. We only get 1 shot. 1 shot is all we need, Marcus said. They left the weapon room and walked back to the bridge. The bridge was the brain of the ship, the place where Sarah gave her orders. It was a wide, round room with screens on every wall. Officers sat at their stations, watching displays and pressing keys. A young woman stood up as Sarah entered. Her name was Lieutenant Park. She was the youngest officer on the ship. She had a kind face and worried eyes. Admiral, Lieutenant Park said. I have a question. May I ask it? Of course, Sarah said. Are we about to start a war? Lieutenant Park's voice was quiet. If we fire this weapon, will the Concorde attack us? Will they burn Earth? The whole bridge went silent. Every officer turned to listen. They all wanted to know the answer. They were all afraid in the same way. Sarah looked at Lieutenant Park for a long moment. Then she looked at all of them. "No," she said. "We are not starting a war. We are ending one. A war that was already coming. A war we did not choose. The Concorde has decided to take Earth. They will take it whether we fight or not. The only question is what kind of fight we give them." She walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. "If we sign their papers," she said, "they will use us. They will use Earth. They will turn our children into workers and slaves. In 100 years, no one will remember what humans were. We will just be one more species on their list, one more world to take from." She turned back to face her crew. "But if we show them what we can do," she said, "if we show them, just once, what humans have built, then they will think. Then they will know. And maybe, just maybe, they will leave us alone. Not because they like us, not because they respect us, but because they are afraid of us." A message came in on her display. It was from Earth. Just 6 words. "Authorization granted. 1 shot. Make it count." Sarah read the words twice. Then she touched a button on her chair. Her voice carried to every part of the ship. "All crew, this is the Admiral. In 2 hours, we will fire the Graviton Lance. Every one of you knows your job. Do it well. Do it with pride. Today, the galaxy will learn what humans are made of." She sat down in her chair. Outside, in the dark, thousands of alien eyes watched. Billions of beings on 100 worlds were placing bets, sharing jokes, laughing. They thought they were about to watch a small human ship embarrass itself in front of the whole galaxy. They did not know they were about to watch the moment when everything changed. Marcus came to stand beside her. He spoke quietly, just for her to hear. 2 hours, Admiral. 2 hours, Sarah said. Then we change the galaxy forever. She watched the clock begin to count down. Around her, her crew worked in calm silence. The great weapon below them, charged with stolen lightning. And out in the dark, far away, the council laughed and laughed, never knowing that their laughter was about to die in their throats. 2 hours passed slowly on the Times Prometheus. Every minute felt like an hour. Every hour felt like a day. The crew worked, but they also waited. They drank water. They checked their stations again and again. Some of them prayed, in their own quiet ways. Out in the dark space, the human fleet of 7 ships moved slowly into position. The Concorde had given them a target. Morgral, 7. It was an old moon, dead and gray, floating in empty space, about 100,000 kilometers from the Concorde station. The Concorde used it to test their biggest weapons. It was made of strong stone and metal, packed tight by gravity over millions of years. It was the size of Earth's own moon. To break it, the Concorde had to bring 10 of their largest warships. Those ships were each 3 kilometers long. They had to fire together, all at once, for many minutes. Their best gunners, their best engineers, all working as one. Even then, the moon only cracked. It did not break apart. Today, the Concorde was about to watch a single human ship try to do what 10 of their dreadnoughts could not. Around the test area, more than 1,000 Concorde ships had gathered to watch. They formed a wide ring in the space, like fans in a sports stadium. Their cameras were on. Their sensors were ready. Some had brought food and drink. They were enjoying the show before the show had even started. In the council hall, far away, the 12 great leaders watched on huge screens. High Counselor Vex Than sat on his crystal throne. He had a small dish of glowing sweets next to him. He ate them slowly while he waited. The Krellin ambassador was placing more bets with the other council members. Most were betting that the human ship would fail to fire at all. Some thought the human weapon would explode and destroy the Times Prometheus. A few said the humans would simply give up before firing. No one bet that the humans would succeed. On the bridge of the Times Prometheus, Sarah Chen sat in her chair, calm and still. The 2 hours were almost up. Marcus Webb came up to her side and spoke softly. "The Lance is ready, Admiral. Full charge. All systems green. Aim? Sarah asked. Locked on the center of the moon. We will hit the core. Sarah nodded. She pressed a button on her chair. Her voice went out across all the ships and to all the watching aliens. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth, she said. We are ready to begin the test. In the council hall, Vexthan smiled with his strange crystal mouth. Begin, little human, he said, over the open channel. Show us your fury. Show us how Earth fights. Laughter came from 1,000 alien throats. It came through every speaker in the Times Prometheus. The crew heard it. Their faces grew hard. Their eyes grew cold. Sarah looked at Marcus. Marcus looked back at her. Fire, Sarah said. Marcus turned to his control panel. He pressed 3 keys in a careful order. He spoke into his microphone. Fire control. Fire the lance. Full power. Deep inside the Times Prometheus, the great machine came alive. The lights on the bridge dimmed for a moment as power flowed away from everything else and into the weapon. The whole ship hummed, a deep sound that the crew felt in their bones more than they heard with their ears. Then, from the front of the Times Prometheus, a thin beam shot out into space. It was almost invisible. It made no flash. It made no thunder. It looked like nothing at all. Just a slight bending in the light of the stars behind it. A small twist in the darkness. The watching aliens leaned forward. They looked at their screens. They turned up their sensors. Where was the great human weapon? Where was the bright flash? Where was the boom and the fire? Is that it? Vexthan said in the council hall. Is that their famous attack? He began to laugh. The other council members joined him. Such a small thing, said the Krellin ambassador. Such a tiny little line. It cannot even reach the moon. For 3 full seconds, nothing seemed to happen. The moon hung there in space, gray and dead, just as it always had. The thin beam touched it. Then the thin beam went away. The Concorde ships waited for the show that was already over, in their view. In the council hall, the laughter grew louder and louder. Then it stopped. It stopped because something was happening to Morgral, 7. The moon began to change. From its very center, a pattern of fine lines spread outward, like cracks in a piece of dropped pottery. The lines moved through the stone and metal in perfect straight paths. They did not break the moon, they unmade it. Where the lines passed, the moon was no longer rock. It was no longer metal. It was no longer anything at all. It was just fine dust, so fine that no eye could see the single grains. The dust did not fly out in a great explosion. It did not push other ships away. It simply was, where stone had been a moment before. The lines moved fast. From the center of the moon to its far edge took only 12 seconds. The whole moon, the moon that had taken millions of years to form, the moon that the Concorde's strongest ships could only crack, came apart in 12 seconds. When the lines finished their work, there was no moon. There was only a great cloud of dust, floating in perfect geometric shapes in the dark of space. The dust spread out slowly, gently, in patterns that looked almost designed. No shockwave came out. No burning rocks flew through space. The watching Concorde ships were not even shaken. The moon was simply gone. For 10 full seconds, no one in the galaxy spoke. 1,000 Concorde ships sat in silence. Their cameras still rolled. Their sensors still scanned. But their crews could not speak. They could not move. They were trying to understand what they had just seen, and their minds were not big enough to hold it. In the council hall, Vexthan's crystal mouth hung open. His sweet, half-eaten, sat forgotten in his hand. The Krellin ambassador's 6 arms were frozen in place. The thin-skinned member who had laughed the loudest was now perfectly still. The room was silent. The galaxy was silent. Then, with a sharp sound, a crack ran down the front of Vexthan's crystal face. He was old, and his body sometimes cracked when he was shocked. The crack was small, but every camera in the room caught it. Every viewer in the galaxy saw it. The leader of the Concorde was so shocked that his own body had broken. And then, into the great silence, Sarah Chen's voice came through every speaker, on every ship, and in every home, across the galaxy. She did not shout. She did not boast. She did not laugh. She spoke calmly, in the same quiet voice she had used in the council hall. That was one shot, she said. From one ship. She paused, just long enough to let those words sink in. We brought 7. The screens in the council hall showed her face, calm and tired, and not at all proud. She looked, in that moment, like the most dangerous being in the galaxy. Vexthan tried to speak. No words came out. He tried again. Still no words. In the dark, the great human fleet of 7 ships waited. Tiny. Harmless looking. Almost a joke. Just hours before. Now, no one was laughing. The galaxy had just learned a new lesson. It was a hard lesson. It was a lesson written in the dust of a dead moon. And it was a lesson that would never, ever, be forgotten. Behind her chair, Sarah closed her eyes for just a moment. The first shot had been fired. The galaxy had changed. There was no going back now. For any of them. Marcus stood at her shoulder, very still. At last, he whispered, "It worked, Admiral. It really worked." "Yes," Sarah said softly. "Now the hard part begins." The silence in the council hall did not last. It broke like a dam breaking, and chaos came rushing through. Every council member began to shout at once. 12 giant alien voices filled the great room with noise. They shouted in 12 different languages. The translation machines could not keep up. The whole place sounded like a market full of angry traders. The Krellan ambassador was waving all 6 of his arms in the air. "Attack them now," he yelled. "Destroy them before they can fire again. That weapon must never be used on our worlds." The thin-skinned council member shook his head hard. "Are you mad? If we attack, they will fire on us. You saw what they did to the moon. Do you want them to do that to your home planet?" "We must talk to them," said another. "We must make peace. We must give them what they want. We must learn how the weapon works," said a fourth. "Then we can build our own." "We have no time," shouted a fifth. "Look at their ships. They have 6 more of those weapons, 6 more shots like that one." Vexthan sat very still on his crystal throne. The crack on his face had not healed. Light from his inside body flickered through the crack in a strange way. He looked smaller now. He looked older. He looked, for the first time in many years, afraid. His mind worked fast. He had ruled the Concord for 200 years. He had crushed many rebellions. He had broken many proud species. He had never once felt fear like this. He needed to think. He needed to act. But what action could undo what he had just seen? A young Terrellian aide ran up to his throne. The aide was carrying a tablet. His crystal hands shook. "High Counselor," the aide said. "Reports are coming in. New reports." "Speak then," Vexthan said. His voice sounded weak. "Our spies on Earth," the aide said. "Our deep spies, the ones inside their cities. They are saying things now. They have always said Earth had no real technology. But now they say there are more weapons. They say Earth has built things we never knew about. Stealth fleets. Planet-wide shields. Faster than light radios that do not need our relay stations." The aide's voice grew softer. They say humans have been preparing for this for 70 years, since the day they first heard our signals." Vexthan closed his eyes. He felt sick. The truth was so simple. The truth had been right there the whole time. Humans had heard the Concord. They had understood. And while the Concord laughed at them and called them small, humans had been working, quietly, patiently, building things in the dark. 70 years. While the Concord had been busy with its old games of power and gold, humans had been changing the rules of war. He opened his eyes. The hall was still in chaos. Council members were still shouting. He raised one crystal hand. "Silence," he said. No one heard him. "Silence," he roared. This time, they heard. The hall went still. "We have no choice but to talk," Vexthan said. The words tasted bad in his crystal mouth. "We must call the human admiral back here. We must hear what she wants." "What she wants," the Krellan ambassador snapped. "She is one small woman. We are the rulers of the galaxy. We do not ask what small humans want." "That small woman just turned a moon into dust," Vexthan said quietly. "She turned a moon into dust with one shot." "Tell me, Ambassador. Do you wish to be the next one she points her ship at? The Krellin said nothing. While the council argued, something else was happening, hidden from their view. Across the galaxy, in quiet rooms and dark offices, leaders of smaller species began to send messages to Earth. These were species that the Concord had crushed and ruled for centuries. They had no power. They had no voice. They had only watched and waited and hated for a long, long time. Now, suddenly, they saw a chance. The unbeatable Concord had been shaken. The proud Concord had been frightened. And the ones who had frightened them were the humans, the same humans the Concord had laughed at just hours before. The smaller species began to reach out. Quiet messages, careful words. We saw what you did. We are watching. If you stand against the Concord, you will not stand alone. On the bridge of the Times Prometheus, Sarah Chen received these messages one by one. She read them with no smile, no joy. She knew what they meant. Earth was no longer alone, but Earth was also no longer in control. The pieces were moving on the board now. There was no putting them back. A new message came in from the council. Vexthan's voice no longer proud. Admiral Chen, please return to the council. We wish to discuss new terms. Sarah looked at Marcus. Marcus looked back at her. They want to talk now, Marcus said. Yes, Sarah said. Now they want to talk. She did not go right away. She let them wait for 1 full hour. She wanted them to feel the time. She wanted them to think about what could happen if she said no. While they waited, in the council hall, the great leaders began to sweat. They began to whisper. Some looked at the door. Some looked at Vex's Than with anger in their eyes. They had trusted him. He had failed them. When Sarah finally returned to the great hall, she came alone, just as before. But this time, the room was different. The laughter was gone. The mocking was gone. The council members did not look down at her with cold smiles. They looked at her with wide eyes and tight mouths. They looked at her the way a small animal looks at a snake. Vex then spoke first. His voice was soft and careful. Admiral, we wish to apologize for our earlier behavior. We did not understand. We see now that humans are a great people. We wish to welcome you as full members of the Concord, as equals. Sarah stood quietly. She let him finish. Then she shook her head. That is not enough, she said. The council members stiffened. What more do you want? The Krellin ambassador asked. His 6 arms were no longer waving. They hung at his sides. I want freedom for everyone, Sarah said. Every species you call protected. Every world you take taxes from. Every people you rule with fear. I want them all to have a vote. I want them all to be heard. The Concord will not rule. The Concord will serve. That is the price of our weapons staying silent. The council hall went still again. The members looked at each other. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Some looked, for the first time, a little ashamed. Behind Sarah, in her ear, Marcus spoke quietly. Admiral, we can only fire the lance again in 6 hours. We are running on backup power. Sarah did not move her face. Understood, she said back, just as quietly. But they do not know that. She turned back to the council. Her voice was strong. My ships are ready, she said. Make your choice. Outside, in the dark, the 7 small human ships waited. The council saw them on the great screens. They looked deadly now. They no longer looked small. They looked like the 7 most dangerous ships in the galaxy. But far away, on a hidden world, Vex Than was already making other plans. Plans no human could yet see. He could not let the Concord fall. He would not let one woman from one small planet break the work of 10,000 years. While his mouth spoke soft words to Sarah Chen, his mind was already turning toward darker choices. In the deep quiet of a private Terrellian war room, secret orders were being given. A strike fleet was being prepared. 40 fast warships. Their goal was simple. Find the Times Prometheus. Destroy it. Kill the woman who had humiliated the Concord. The talking would continue in the Great Hall. But somewhere else, the real answer to Sarah Chen's demand was already moving through space, hidden and silent. with weapons hot and orders to kill. The talks in the council hall went on for hours. The council members argued. They begged. They tried tricks. They tried to make Sarah Chen agree to smaller things, easier things, things that would let them keep their power. Sarah said no to each one. She stood in the middle of the great hall, alone, and would not move. The council members grew tired. Their voices grew thin. The thin-skinned member sat down. The Krellin ambassador stopped waving his 6 arms and just sat there, looking at the floor. Behind the scenes, Vexthan was watching the clock. He was waiting. He knew his strike fleet was coming. He just needed to keep Sarah Chen talking until the fleet arrived. Then, it would all be over. The Times, Prometheus Times, would be dust before it could fire again. The other 6 human ships would die before they understood what was happening. Earth would be left without its weapon. Then the Concorde could go back to the way things had always been. What Vexthan did not know was that the Times, Prometheus Times, was watching too. The human ship had sensors the Concorde could not even imagine. Marcus Webb was on the bridge, eyes on his screens. He had seen the first signs of the Terrellian strike fleet many minutes ago. "Admiral," Marcus said into Sarah's ear, "we have ships coming in from the dark side of the system, 40 of them. Terrellian warships. They are running silent and fast. They will be in firing range in 3 minutes." Sarah did not change her face. She did not look surprised. She had been waiting for this. "Are our other 6 ships ready?" she asked very quietly. "Yes, Admiral," Marcus said. "Their lances are charged. They have been charged the whole time. The Council does not know." "Good," Sarah said. "Let them come close. Let them think we do not see. Then end them." In the Council hall, Vexthan tried to keep his face calm. He smiled at Sarah. "Perhaps we should take a short break, Admiral," he said. "We have been talking for many hours. You must be tired." "I am not tired," Sarah said. Vexthan's smile grew tight. "Perhaps. A drink? A meal?" "No, thank you," Sarah said. Out in the dark, the Terrellian strike fleet came faster and faster. Their crews were proud. Their orders were simple. 40 ships against 1. They would win in seconds. They would be heroes of the Concorde. They would be remembered as the ones who saved the galaxy from the human menace. They were 1 minute from firing range. They were 30 seconds from firing range. They were 10 seconds from firing range. And then, all at once, the other 6 human ships did something the Concorde had not expected. They had been sitting quietly near the Times Prometheus, looking like small escort ships, looking like nothing important. Now they turned. Their fronts pointed toward the coming Terrellian fleet. And from each of their fronts, thin beams shot out into space. 6 beams, 6 lances, each one smaller than the great weapon on the Times Prometheus, but still too strong for any Concorde ship to stop. The Terrellian fleet had no time to react. The lead ship simply came apart, just as the moon had done. Then the next. Then the next. The beams moved from ship to ship in perfect order. No flash, no fire, no screams of dying engines. Just ships, then no ships. Just war machines, then dust. In 90 seconds, all 40 Terrellian ships were gone. There were no survivors. There was no wreckage. Where 40 mighty warships had been, only fine dust now floated, spreading in slow patterns through the cold dark. In the council hall, screens lit up red with alerts. The council members turned to look. Their faces fell. The Krellin ambassador made a small sound, like a child who has been slapped. Vexthan's eyes closed. The last move on the board. The last hope of saving the old Concorde. Gone in 90 seconds. Gone with no human ship even harmed. Sarah Chen turned slowly to face him. Her voice was very, very calm. "Did you think we would not see them coming?" she asked. Vexthan said nothing. "Did you think we did not know who you were? Did you really think 1 moon was the limit of what we have built?" She walked closer to his throne. The other council members watched in silence. None of them moved to help him. "I did not want this," Sarah said. "Humans did not want this. We did not seek you out. We did not invade your space. We did not put our ships near your worlds. We hid for 70 years. We hid because we were afraid of you. We built our weapons because we were afraid of you. She stopped at the base of his throne. She looked up at him. We are not afraid of you anymore. The question is whether you should be afraid of us. I hope the answer is no. I hope we can work together. I hope our two peoples can build something better than what you have now. But that choice is yours. Vexthen's crystal head bowed slowly. The crack on his face was now joined by other small cracks. He looked like a thing that was breaking apart from within. What? What are your terms? He whispered. You already know them, Sarah said. Freedom for the protected species. Votes for all peoples. The Concord serves, it does not rule. And humanity takes a seat on the council. As equals. The council members looked at each other. They knew the answer. There was only one answer. Agreed, said the thin-skinned member. Agreed, said the Krellin ambassador, quietly. Agreed, said the others, one by one. Vexthen nodded once. Agreed, he said. His voice was almost gone. The papers were signed within the hour. The news went out to every corner of the galaxy. The old Concord was no more. A new Concord was being born, one with humans at the table, one with smaller species finally having a voice. In the days that followed, things changed fast. Worlds that had been ruled with fear got the right to vote. Trade lanes that had been blocked were opened. New ideas began to flow. Old wounds began to heal, though slowly. 3 days after the signing, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Times Prometheus. She was looking out at the stars. The window was large. The space outside was very deep and very black. Marcus Webb came up beside her. He had a cup of hot tea in his hand. He gave her one too. Did we do the right thing, Admiral? He asked. Sarah did not answer right away. She drank her tea. She looked at the stars. We bought time, she finally said. What humans do with that time, that is the next chapter. I will not be the one to write it. None of us will. Our children will. Their children will. She turned to him. There was a small smile on her face. The first real smile he had seen on her in many days. Look out there, Marcus. He looked. At first, he saw only the dark and the stars. Then his eyes adjusted, and he saw something else. Ships. Many ships. Hundreds of them, slowly coming out of hiding. They had been there the whole time, cloaked, watching, waiting. Every one of them was a human ship. Every one of them carried a graviton lance. They never had a chance, did they? Marcus said softly. No, Sarah said. They never did. But we let them think they did. That was the gift we gave them. The chance to choose peace. Most of them took it. Out across the galaxy, in many languages, a new saying began to spread. Mothers told it to their children. Old warriors told it to young ones. It became something everyone said. The way humans say, time's easy come, easy go. The saying was this: never mock the quiet ones. They are quiet because they do not need to shout. And far away, on a small blue planet, the people of Earth looked up at the stars. They knew the galaxy had changed. They knew their place in it had changed. They were no longer hiding. They were no longer afraid. The age of humans had just begun.